When Ione is walking through a group of burning desks in the schoolyard, a strange girl who looks like her buddy G1 suddenly attacks her. Ione is besieged by ghosts as others start to materialize around, but just as she thinks she's going to pass out, she wakes up in her bed at the school dorms. The final week of exams is causing tension in the entire school, and everyone is under the gun. Ione is less tolerant than usual of the trust fund kids, who are granted special privileges at school, but she is able to unwind a little when she is with her closest friend Yoon and the school bully Beam, who has a crush on her. The teachers are uncomfortable as well. Choi hasn't smiled in a long time, and Hwang continually reprimands Lee for being too strict with the pupils. When a terrifying visage appears on his test during an exam, Beam cries out in response and falls off his chair. Beam keeps hearing murmurs in the background of the classroom. Even though Beam insists that he didn't do it, the teacher does see the unsettling scars on Beam's wrist when he checks on him and finds nothing on the paper. The teachers forbid any interruptions to the test, but when they find out it was one of Beam's pranks, they order him to return to detention. The instructors meet with the principal in the afternoon, who informs them that visitors from their sister school would be coming soon, so he requests that they form a temporary class with their best students and begin preparing them this weekend. Ione and Yoon find out they'll be in the special weekend class when the test results are announced the next day. The top 3 spots are typically occupied by wealthy children. Beam observes the eerie girl from Ione's dream and he starts to feel dizzy. After a short while, the unsettling girl's face merges with Ione's, prompting Beam to assault her. As the nurses haul him away, Beam yells at everyone to tell them they're going to die soon. An ambulance is summoned to transport him away. Guard Kim hears a commotion coming from beneath the building floor as he is going about his routine nighttime patrols. It is Beam, who has just escaped from the mental hospital and arrived at the school wearing blood-stained hands. He appears to be terrified and is fixating on something, but Kim is unsure of what. Beam sees a complete view of a decomposing body when the guard moves his flashlight to have a better look, and he flees while screaming. The following Saturday's special class starts with the teachers ordering students on to gather everyone's cell phones because phones are not permitted on this particular day. Hwang observes a girl named Minute is absent when the class starts, but he figures she will be late and goes forward with the course. Song hears a strange voice calling his name as he is en route to bring the phones to the staff area. After following the voice into the restroom, he is startled to experience an unexpected attack from an unknown force that leaves him with serious injuries before dragging him by the ankle under a stall door and through the ceiling. When Minute is locked inside a glass container with an equation printed on its side, Choi's lesson is abruptly interrupted. Back in the classroom, Choi starts her lesson by playing an informative film. Choi tries to turn it off but is unsuccessful, so he doesn't take it seriously yet and sends Ione to the staff room to investigate. Ione sees the same thing on every screen in the corridor as she sprints there, and once she enters the staff room, she learns the internet has abruptly stopped working. Thereafter, everyone will take a new kind of test, and if they don't respond to the questions, they will all die one by one, according to a spooky voice that suddenly appears on the TVs. Every question must be addressed in order to receive the complete solution, and if someone leaves the school, they will likewise perish. Both teachers and students are perplexed and unsure on how to interpret this. Even worse, Kim enters to check that all phone lines have been disconnected. The professors find their cell phone to be damaged. While Ione and the teachers join the other students in the classroom, everyone shouts because the glass container Minute is in has started to fill with water. Lee confronts Yoon because he thinks it might be a hoax, and Hwang has to separate them to prevent a fight from breaking out. The teachers start arguing, and this diverts everyone's attention and Minute drowns as the container is filled with water. Lee decides to cross the street to see if he can find a phone after witnessing an actual death that persuades him that Hyun did not commit the crime. Lee comes back covered in blood and dies as soon as he crosses the door while the voice reminds them they need to stay inside. Beam, meantime, has also managed to enter the structure and is now wandering around, pausing only to scribble in a notebook when he hears additional noises. The eerie voice then announces that everyone's next exercise will involve an audio hint, pains Song so that he screams into the microphone, and forces him to admit that his sin is having a selfish mother. The voice then informs them that the exercise is in the auditorium and that they must use the words that are waiting for them on the floor to construct a sentence that is related to greed. INA and Hwang finally come up with a suitable line after much brainstorming, but they are too late and Song's body is dumped in the middle of the auditorium with his face smeared in the candle wax the evil guy used to harm him and the solution to the riddle inscribed on their chests by scars. Additionally, a student by the name of CHA has gone missing as well, which gives INA a thought that causes her to leave the auditorium. Hyun pursues her and discovers her examining the rankings of the students, which supports her. They're being executed in the proper order, according to a theory. First and second place went to Minute and Song, and third place went to the CHA. INA came in fifth, with Yoon coming in fourth. The wealthy students plan to sneak into their rooms in the auditorium because they believe it would be safer. Yoon overhears this and decides to join them. They convince Hwang to let them leave the auditorium by saying they have to use the restroom. INA and Hyun make their way back to the auditorium, where they inform the professors of their discoveries and advise them to find Yoon as quickly as possible. In the end, they split the class into two groups, with Choi leading one and Hwang leading the other. By the time night falls, CHA was still absent. The dorm door where the escaping group is hiding is suddenly shaking, and some weird force punches a hole in the wood, grabs a student by the hair and pulls him through, killing him instantly. The next task is to decrypt a password to use on the computer on the desk by looking at the graphics on the board, which Hwang's group learns when they go to investigate a light that has been turned on in a random classroom. Choi's group notices lights flickering at a dorm window as they get to work and they find frightened kids in the hallway. Without any warning, they are all screaming and pushing at each other. Beam hides in the steps since he can make out the eerie ghost that is accompanying them in the hallway. After a brief period of complete turmoil, the lights begin to function regularly once more, and they learn that the assailant made a mistake by kidnapping Sejin rather than Yoon, who had never left her bedroom in the first place. They enter the password into the computer, but it's too late. CHA is dead, and the body and decomposing face of a spooky woman are captured on camera. This horrible sight causes them to scream and flee until they eventually meet Choi's group. Everyone then makes their way to the cafeteria to eat. INA discovers this is connected to her former best friend Ji-won while discussing the password's hint. She used to be the top student in their class since she worked so hard to study every day, to maintain her scholarship. Everyone was astonished one day when the rankings were announced following another. Ji-won placed 6th, forcing her to vacate the dorm. A couple of days later, Ji-won mysteriously turned up dead in the theater. Since ghosts don't exist, the students in the cafeteria start to worry if G-Ghost Ones is torturing them. This causes a visibly uncomfortable Hwang to drop the subject. Later Kim joins them for supper as well. While Choi, INA, and Hyun follow the music to the staff room, where a challenge in the form of an anagram awaits them, Hwang decides he's had enough and goes in search of the murderer. They must combine the images to build a new image of the school in order to figure it out. Before being placed inside a washing machine, the attacker also seriously hurts Sejin, but Hyun gets a matching image from the front desk to use as a reference while figuring out the jigsaw. The strategy is successful, and the solution is revealed to be "I know who killed me, my rage will survive, face the truth." In the meantime, Hwang continues to notice shadows in the corner of his eyes and strange noises coming from outside. Hwang is suddenly attacked and pushed away by an unknown force. He flees to a closet and struggles mightily to hold back his screams as a knife repeatedly stabs the door. Fortunately, the attacker leaves, allowing Hwang to finally flee. He runs into Choi and the teenagers while leaving. Before they can exchange information, they start to hear a washing machine beeping, which they track to learn it is signaling the end of its cycle. There, Sejin is found. Choi is more certain now that this has something to do with Ji-won, but when she goes to ask INA for her view, she can't locate her. Yoon notices that everyone in the cafeteria has suddenly gone asleep, yet. She dons her music player's headphones to block out her thoughts about what it might signify. Yoon misses the rotting woman sneaking up behind her to fully kidnap her this time because of this. At the same time, INA pursues a spooky whisper in the dorms until she finds the spooky girl from her dreams sketching on the earlier drawings Beam had produced. INA screams and the ghost tries to grab her, but by the time the teachers discover her, the eerie girl has vanished. Hwang asks Yoon how he pulled off the prank the last time. Following the boy's explanation of the connections he established, the group enters a room where they discover the cable that connects the computers. They track this wire underground to see where it may lead them. But Beam is the first person they come across, and as soon as he sees INA, he attacks. Hyun leaps to INA's defense, but during the battle, Beam stabs him to death before turning to INA once more. This time, Hwang is the one to stop Beam, and he strikes Beam to death. There is no time to be sad since Yoon is once again yelling as the music announcing a new riddle plays. The commotion leads INA and the teachers into a hallway with a closed door at the end. In order to unlock the door, they must complete a task. Yoon is dangling from her ankle behind this door, watching a dead minute float by, while a candle burns the rope holding her up. Fortunately, Choi understands the required algebra and figures the combination number, enabling them to open the door. INA cuddles Yoon to help her through her panic while Hwang attempts to figure out how to let her down securely. Choi finds a collection of paper sheets. Sadly, despite the fact that they succeeded in passing the exam, the eerie woman still lifts Yoon before letting her fall, killing her. Hwang climbs the stairs after spotting steps leading to the roof and encounters the unsettling woman, who attempts to knife him. Fortunately, Hwang responds immediately and fights back, killing the woman after a battle and putting an end to everything. A memorial service for the deceased pupils is held in the auditorium later. INA seeks relief from the excruciating pain on the roof, where she is startled to discover the paper sheets with the test plans. A photograph of Ji-won and her family reveals that her parents were the unsettling woman and Kim the security guard, a big surprise. Speaking about Kim, he pounces on INA and kidnaps her, demonstrating that he has been collaborating with his wife the entire time and that he wants to see their plan through to completion. Kim ties INA to a chair and starts to speak through the speakers while also gassing up the theater. He acknowledges being Ji-father once and says he's glad all the wealthy parents now understand the misery he's gone through. Then, he begs the murderer to come forward while playing a recording of Ji-won being murdered. It is revealed that Hwang was the one who killed Ji-won. It turned out that Ji-won's 6th place finish was entirely the result of Hwang's bribes by wealthy parents. She confronted Hwang and threatened to report him to the principal unless he made things right. Hwang reacted by killing her. Beam had witnessed everything, and ever since then, he has assumed Ji-won has followed him around. Hwang becomes irrational when he is cornered in the auditorium, taking an axe from the wall and threatening everyone. However, before he has a chance to hurt anyone, Kim arrives and takes the axe from Hwang and kills him. According to Kim's flashbacks, the original guard had been murdered so that he could assume his position, indicating that he had been plotting this since Ji passing once 2 years ago. INA checks the student rankings a few weeks later and is happy to learn she is number 1. She then turns around, but her face and Ji-won's merge into one, giving the impression that she may have been possessed the entire time, which is why Beam kept attacking her. Thank you, and if you haven't already, click the like and subscribe buttons.